This episode of Conversations with Cameron J. by Classic City Crime Podcast is brought to you by Mo Wiltshire of Wiltshire Defense. Experienced, nationally recognized legal defense when it matters most for Athens and Northeast Georgia. Learn more at wiltshiredefense.com. And before we dive in, don't forget, the views and opinions expressed by guests do not necessarily reflect those of Classic City Crime, Cameron J., or any associated sponsors or affiliates. With that, enjoy the show.
All right, welcome back to Classic City Crime. I'm your host, Cameron J., and it is so good to be back with all of you, coming to you from the studios right here at Runway Co-work in Beechwood. And I just wanted to start out by expressing my continued gratitude to each and every single one of you for being on this new path forward for the podcast, where we are doing on-camera interviews with people that are in the justice field, talking about the topics you care about. And if you've been listening, you know that we are never afraid to sit down and ask the tough questions. We dive into the issues that matter here in Athens: public safety, justice, and the systems that are meant to protect and serve. If you value these conversations, don't forget to take a moment real quick, like this video, leave a comment, and share it with a neighbor, because an informed resident is an engaged resident. And of course, your engagement helps us continue to do this work. With that, this episode is one that many of you have been waiting for and talking about. We are going to be joined by Sheriff John Q. Williams, who is one of our community's chartered officers, to talk about what the sheriff's role actually is, what happens inside the Clarke County Jail, and recent developments which include inmate deaths, staffing shortages, and budget requests to our local mayor and commission here in Athens-Clarke County. To answer your questions directly with me today is Sheriff John Q. Williams. Sheriff, thank you so much for joining the podcast.
Thank you for having me, Cameron. I'm excited.
Well, Sheriff, for those who do not know much about John Q. Williams, other than the purple name on a sign every 4 years, who is our sheriff? How did you get to the spot you're in now?
Okay, I don't know, to go way back, I was born in Gary, Indiana, so wasn't born in Athens, but I've been here more than half of my life.
Reborn in Athens, maybe.
Yes, absolutely. I think early on I said I was born in Gary, but I grew up in Athens.
Yes,
there's a big distinction there. I've learned a lot over the years, and I started off, I really didn't have a background or a love for law enforcement. I was not on the other side, but I ran with some people that were on the other side,
sure.
And I had a different perspective. So over the years, between school and moving about around the country, I ended up in Athens, and my first official job that I would say was a career was I responded to an ad because I had moved and my sister was going to UGA, and I applied for a job as a communications officer. And I said that was my major in college, speech and communications, and a minor in theater. So, yes, I'm also a thespian.
Now that makes sense,
yes.
Sheriff.
So I just applied, and it turns out it was a dispatcher for the University of Georgia Police Department. So from there, I just kind of had a new perspective on law enforcement in general, because I had to work hand in hand with the officers on campus. And then I got to know some other officers throughout the county, as well as, my sister was married to a long-time, the son of a long-time Athens police officer who passed away a few years ago, James Billups. And he was one of the first people I met, of course, his family there. And then I met Chief Lumpkin and, all the people that I had on campus. So that just kind of loosened me up to the ideas. And the more I got to know, years later, I became an instructor. And one of the first classes I started teaching was fair and impartial policing. And it's about removing the bias from policing, but also just your daily lives and how you overcome those. And one theory is positive contact theory. And I'm a living example of that. The more interactions you have, you can get rid of those bias, especially if they're positive. So, that's why in community-oriented policing, we want to do things like the cookouts, getting out there doing the
Which y'all do a lot of.
We do a lot.
Yes,
and we want to do more. But that's how you get everybody to understand that you're also human beings. And you have flaws, but you also have similar characteristics to everybody. So it's not always about who's different. And you can overcome those biases. So that's kind of my thought process and how I got into it.
And you're now in your second term, I believe, as sheriff.
Second term. So 4 years and a few months.
Yes, and a few more to go. So with that, Sheriff, I want to ask you, a lot of people get confused. What is a sheriff versus, say, a police chief or the Georgia Bureau of Investigation and an agent there? Help people understand the role of a sheriff in our community, specifically here in Athens-Clarke County.
Okay. And apologies in advance, because sometimes I try to explain this and some people kind of get in their feelings, but I only speak in the facts.
That's
so I'm
okay.
not speaking
We like
about
facts.
trying to put myself on a different pedestal or nothing. But the fact is, the sheriff is a constitutional officer. And in the state of Georgia, at least, there's 159 counties. The Constitution requires that each of those counties has a sheriff. And that sheriff is the highest ranking elected official in any given county.
Right.
And, regardless of what the trends have been, that's what the facts are. And as sheriff, I'm trying to get back to that because I think the sheriff should have a more, I guess, I'm not going to say important, but a more intricate role in the day-to-day workings of the county.
Because someone's not going to see, and correct me if I'm wrong, they will not see a Clarke County Sheriff's deputy pulling someone over for speeding.
So
or will
they
they?
can.
They can.
They
All right,
can.
let's
Absolutely.
hear about it.
So that's I think one of the misconceptions.
Yeah.
Because of the unified government in the state of Georgia, you can, as a county, elect to have a police department, but that's an elected thing. That does not take away the power or authority from the sheriff's office.
So it's an opt-in. When you say elected, opt-in to have it. I see.
So you have to have that sheriff, and the sheriff has the authority. And throughout history, go back to the times of Robin Hood and before then, the sheriff was the shire of the reef. So that's the person that the king reached out to do everything. So sheriffs back then, they tried to keep the peace. They ran the jails. They also collected taxes. So there was this whole thing.
Are you interested in doing that part of it?
So
okay. All right. Just wanted to be sure.
I'm absolutely glad that we have a tax commissioner and the American sheriffing has, kind of transformed just a little bit, because that's a whole different headache of itself. More power to those folks who do that job. But it lets us really focus on that, keeping the peace, day-to-day operations and trying to take care of the people.
So you oversee a lot of different things, the jail, the courthouse. Help us understand what a day-to-day operation looks like at the Clarke County Sheriff's Office.
So from my perspective, or just anything, because my day changes each and every day, kind of like hour by hour, but just going by the individual areas. So our field division, on any given day, they're charged with being out and about. We have them out doing patrols, of course, looking for wanted persons. If we have active warrants, they have to do that. But also civil processes, somebody, a bad check or, a late notice or something that needs to be delivered, any of those things, as well as evictions. I know everybody says boo, but it's one of those things that as a constitutional officer, it's the law.
You don't have to like doing it.
I don't get to say, oh, no, I don't want to evict this person. But if a judge issues that order, then we have to stand by and we have to make sure that it's safe. So that's the field unit. And also, we have a police department. And if they're out, we're all on the same radio. We different channels, but we hear each other. If a police officer calls for help, or if we get out, we see a traffic accident, or we see, a fight, we're going to get out and address those things because we are certified peace officers, and we're able to address those. Typically, when it comes to the report writing, the police department clearly does more of that, and they're the first ones called because of 911 responses. But we do pretty much the same things. Maybe, I guess, a lower percentage of our time is spent doing those things, but those are things.
Because you have a big facility on Lexington Road you're in charge of.
Yes, yes. So we have to focus on those things too. But then we also have court services. Those are the folks, if you come to the courthouse, we're doing the screening at the doors, make sure people don't bring anything that's dangerous or contraband in there, and also just kind of identifying who people are. We have to know that and make sure that the judges are safe. So making sure that, if a judge needs to escort to or from their car, we get that. And then also when we do have people who are on trial come in, we have to make sure that they're moving safely. So those are kind of like the courthouse duties. As a sheriff, I'm required to have an office at the courthouse. I actually also have one at the jail. I think that's kind of, I'm told, I didn't know this when I got elected, but that's kind of rare that a sheriff has an office at the jail and also, spends time at that office. But I thought that was pretty important.
Yeah.
That not just the folks who are at the courthouse see me, but the folks at the jail, to make sure that they know they do have support and they do have an avenue to talk to the sheriff. So that's kind of courthouse, the field, and the security of the courthouse and civil processes. As far as the jail goes, that's a whole different animal. It's you learn every day.
Fun fact: my first job was a jailer.
Okay.
Corrections officer in Appling County, Georgia. Everyone behind the camera is like, "What is he talking about right now?" But that is true for 2 years. Yeah.
All right. Well, hey, so you got.
But I'm not
insight.
Looking for a job right now.
Well,
but
I was going to hit you on that, but we'll see. But if you want, we do part time too right now.
All right. Well, I might call you then. But tell us about the jail size.
So the jail, and so the size of the jail, we can. The statistics on it when they remodeled it in 2016, they say it's more than that. But I would argue that a little bit over 800 people. That's the maximum. When we start getting over 800, we start having people sleeping not directly on the floor. We have boats and things that we can do to add space. But I think comfortably, if that's really even, that's kind of oxymoronic. You're in a jail.
Understand.
But we could do a little bit over 800 people. Right now, we average somewhere between 450 and 500. And that helps us because of our staffing levels right now. We really couldn't have every unit open. So
have you ever hit that 800 in your 4 years? Okay, good,
no,
good.
We haven't come close to that. I think we've topped out like maybe low 600.
Okay.
Probably 630 is the highest number I can remember.
Okay.
And that's like probably was a game day where we got people that are getting out, but those numbers still count until they're actually out.
Yeah, got it.
So we got that. The thing that people don't realize about jail is not just about, hey, get this person in their cell, get them out of the cell. We have to worry about, the residents there being fed. So we can't just give them a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. We actually have to know the caloric intake that they're getting. So that's one of our main concerns. Hey, if they're supposed to get, 2,500 calories a day on average, how do we know if they're getting that? So we have to make sure of those things. Then medical services, we have to make sure that they're treated, just like if it was my child. We have to take care of them. If they have existing or pre-existing conditions, we have to know that. If something happens while they're in jail, we have to address those situations. So that's why we have a medical staff. We're contracted out. We actually increased the funding for that. We were able to work with the commission on that.
Yeah, you're a big advocate there. I remember that talk y'all had.
Yeah, because it was, we were seeing, and you'll probably realize this after COVID, people just seem to be more sick.
Yes.
And it's just people are not as healthy as they could be. And unfortunately, the jail population is very, very a microcosm of that. When you see a lot of the folks who come to jail, they may be, on the poorer side of things, or, if there's racial disparities, anything like that. So you get people that may not go to the hospital or to their doctors regularly. Then they come to jail, and then we start finding out, okay, this is wrong with you. And sometimes they didn't
never
even know
thought about that.
So that's how a lot of people get diagnosed, is in jail. And then also when you're dealing with drug addiction, alcohol addiction, mental health, those are all things that we see on a daily basis. So we have to find ways to address those. And that's probably the biggest chunk of what we did when we increased the medical services. We added mental health providers. We added more MAT programs so we can make sure that people are addicted to drugs and or alcohol, that we can get them lined up with services that can help them kick those habits.
Yes, absolutely. Well, that is great to hear. We are here with Sheriff John Q. Williams of Athens-Clarke County. Now, Sheriff, thank you for sharing about how you got to the point that we are now and the roles and responsibilities of a sheriff. Hopefully, people now feel a little more informed about what it is that you do. But I know that with your job also comes some tough challenges, especially in the current day. And I was recently watching, as you know, a mayor and commission meeting, typically from the comfort of my own home. And a gentleman got up to speak about an issue that recently occurred at the jail. So I want us to watch that together, and then we'll come back and talk about what he said.
Yesterday afternoon, an inmate at the Clarke Jail died. He was 32 years old. About 2 weeks before, another inmate was found dead, or actually he was found in a medical emergency in his cell and ultimately died. That's two 30-somethings dying in our jail in the last couple of weeks. And the GBI is investigating that. That's required, and any time that an inmate dies in government custody. But they're only going to look at it in terms of criminal investigation, whether there was criminal activity that led to these people's deaths. And I would suggest that we need more than just that as a community. These men didn't choose to be where they were, obviously, but when they're under the community's care. They are dependent on us as a community. And the death of these two men raises a lot of questions that the GBI isn't going to be investigating. That's not the scope of their investigation. It's an investigation, though, that I think needs to be undertaken at the jail by the sheriff's office, but also by the community. And fortunately, we actually have an organization that you folks formed who oversee the sheriff's office and the jail, and that's PCOB. And so what I am requesting you as mayor and commission to do is to put this on their table as something that they should take up. Don't leave it to them. Don't make them make the decision, okay, are we going to put ourselves in this position? See that this gets reviewed by the organization that you set up to review the public safety performance in our city. See that they have your support in doing that investigation, reviewing that investigation, I should say, and see that they have the resources necessary to complete it. Hopefully, we don't see this kind of thing again.
Sheriff, I know that last comment, hopefully we don't see this type of thing again, is probably something you share, the sentiment that you share. So I know that when these types of things happen, you're often limited in what you can say. But what can you today tell us about these two recent deaths that occurred at the Clarke County Jail?
Okay, so, and I'll address some of his comments too.
Sure.
But first and foremost, what I have to share is it's always a tragedy when somebody loses their life.
Yeah.
And that's a fact. That's always going to be. Like I say, I deal in facts. And from that standpoint, I can tell you about our procedures and how we do things. Everything we do, every policy we make is, okay, based in the Constitution and in law, but it's also based in humanity. And sometimes people disagree, but we also have this thing called best practices.
Yep.
And unless we can justify going outside of those best practices, then that's kind of what we have to follow, because that's what, between Supreme Court decisions, between just historical data, that's the angle that we have to come at. Sure. Now, if we find something and we say, look, this just doesn't work, that's when we circle back around and we try to find a better way. But as the gentleman's statement, this is what I want to make sure everybody is clear on.
Yeah.
That is not true about the GBI. the GBI looks very deep into these things. And that's they're a tool, they're a resource, and that's a policy that's by agency choice. It's not mandated by the law. So we choose in any of these situations, whether there is something suspicious or not, we work with the coroner, and then we also work with GBI to make sure we get to the facts, because we don't even want like a perception of impropriety when it comes to that. But the GBI does. They dig deep into what's going on.
So they're not just looking at, did another inmate cause this? They're also looking at, did procedural error at the jail cause it, you're saying?
They're going to look at our policy, and, you know, if they determine that, say, we're supposed to do jail checks, and if we weren't doing the jail checks, they're going to highlight that as well.
That's a good clarification there.
So it's not as simple as say, hey, was there a criminal involved? But if there's anything else that was a factor and they find that, that's going to be part of that report and the finding.
In addition to the GBI's investigation of the death itself and what you're saying, even maybe how we got there, independent of criminal behavior, do you also then trigger an internal investigation, and what does that look like?
So that starts right off the bat before, fortunately, a lot of times what we have is we'll have somebody who's non-responsive, or we have somebody who may have suspected overdose or something like that. So while we're in those life-saving moments, those critical moments where we're trying to save somebody's life, we're starting those investigations already. We're already looking through, the camera footage. When did this person get here? Did they have anything on them when they came in? What were their charges? Was it drug-related charges? Is it the chance that we missed something on a search or the body scan?
I see.
Is there, a history with this person in the jail of having this? And then, of course, what's the medical history? And those are the things that I can't reveal on any case-by-case basis, but those are all the things that we start before the GBI is even on scene or EMS gets there. And then after that fact, we do turn the investigation over to the GBI, but we're still looking at our own policies right now. So it's like, did we violate a policy? Did we, is there things that we could have handled better? Those are things that we always are considering. And we'll sit back and we'll kind of wait and get a feeling from what the GBI has to say. But then we also look at incidents in the past. So we already, reach out to our medical staff with just what we do know and say, hey, is there something that we could have known? Is there a pattern here? Is there anything else? So we're already trying to determine those things. But again, of course, with the ongoing investigation, we can't release findings on these specific cases, but that is all part of the process each and every time.
Now, I know I'm not special here, Sheriff, but are there any preliminary findings or anything that you can share that would put the community at ease as it relates to perhaps they have a loved one that is currently at the jail? Are they safe? Those type of questions that people might be asking themselves.
So I guess the answer to that is, safe is a relative term.
Sure.
But I can tell you, as far as the people that we have working in our jail, we have a lot of dedicated individuals. And yes, we're short-staffed, but I believe in the folks that we have working. And might we have one or two that maybe aren't up to the same standard as everybody else? Yes, but we're working.
So
to
say
make
we
sure
all,
identify.
right?
Yeah. So it's not 100% that everybody is going to be perfect for the job. But this is what I can tell you. Over these 4+ years, we've lost some people, but some of that's been addition by subtraction.
Yeah. Because
they weren't people who needed to be there or who had the same dedication. And sometimes we've lost 2 or 3 people, but we actually got better. So we focus on that. So how to put people at ease, so to speak. First of all, you do have to realize that it is a jail. It's not a resort or a vacation spot. But my staff should be reflecting my own, I guess, persona, how I go about day-to-day business. And I was raised by my mama, and my mama put God in me.
Yep.
And between those two things, that's what I, when I get up in the morning, when I go to bed at night, those are the 2 things that I start looking. I say, hey, will my mama be proud of what I did? And would God respect what I did? And have I led along those lines? And that's what everybody that Clarke County Sheriff's Office employees is expected to be thinking about.
Yeah.
Do we get it right all the time? No. But when we don't get it right, our goal is to say, okay, what did we do wrong? How can we do better next time? So hopefully that's a little bit of a comfort, because you're going to have days that run better than others.
Mm-hmm.
But you always got to strive to be better, to always keep learning. Does that answer what you're asking?
It does. I think so. And, it's one of those things, right? There will be questions about this probably for a long time to come. You'll probably answer many more outside of my interview, right? But the big question I have, two final ones on this point, then I want to keep going, because listeners, you're going to see that Sheriff John Q. Williams is not kidding about how seriously he takes putting his hand on the Bible. But I do want to ask you, has any disciplinary action been taken against anyone that is employed by the Clarke County Jail as it relates to these two deaths?
These two? No. Nothing. Okay. Nothing to this point.
All right, and that was a listener question for your reference there. And the last question that I have on this point is, do you have anything that you want to say to the loved ones in this community of those two individuals? I know you don't get the opportunity to be on camera much, but I wanted to give you that space.
So and not on camera, but this is first to the viewers. I want them to know that everyone at that jail is a human being. And many people at the jail are there, whether they've been convicted of something before, they're there awaiting trial. Typically, 80-90% of the folks are there pre-trial. And
most of them come back into the community.
A lot of them come back.
Yes.
When you're in jail, it's not prison. So you're getting out at some point. Nobody's in prison in a local jail forever. You get sentenced, you go to prison, and that might be a longer term. But typically, nobody stays in a jail for more than a year or two.
Sure.
But I'm always open, especially if you have a loved one and you have questions. The first thing I do when people raise concerns is say, hey, come talk to me. And if you want to come, you can tour the jail. I've reached out numerous times, and that's my approach, because I'm a sheriff. I'm elected by the people. So we asked earlier, what's the difference between a sheriff and a chief? That's another one. The people select their sheriff, and I take that very seriously. So if you have questions, I might be put off by how they're asked sometimes, but you have a right to ask them. So I'm never going to be offended that people ask questions. And we're going to give you the facts. We're going to talk to you. And we'll open up that jail for tours if we need to be. In fact, if you want to come out, please come by.
Maybe we'll come out
and see what it's like.
Yeah, maybe we'll have to get our cameraman there with us to show people. Maybe not
limited.
Okay,
reasons,
I get it.
But,
I get it.
If we're some photos and
that would be great. We would love to take you up on that. One thing that this gentleman brought up that I don't think we addressed was the PCOB, Public Safety Civilian Oversight Board. For listeners who don't know, this was a board that was commissioned by the mayor and commission to review actions of law enforcement here in our community. Do you welcome their review of this incident? Do you think they have a role to play in it at all?
So what I want to start off by this, and the PCOB at its when it was first getting started, I was still at the police department, so I was very, very focused on its development. And when Chief Spruill was there, I helped work with him on just an understanding of what the parameters would be. With that said, for the sheriff's office, it's completely voluntary. The PCOB and its, this formation is not something that has power over an elected official, a constitutional officer. But we have people who participate. I've got a lieutenant who is assigned, and he comes to all the meetings, and he's there to answer questions. So I don't know how much more I could support it than by dedicating a person to it. So absolutely, we want to be transparent. We want to be open, and if some good ideas come out of it, more power to it.
All right. Well, hopefully the gentleman that spoke heard you answer this question. I think you did clear up some of that which he was speaking about. Now, I want to pivot to talking about what I believed could be, and you've kind of alluded to this in public forums as well, some of the root causes of the issues that you're facing right now, staffing levels, the ability to recruit, the ability to retain. And I know that you recently addressed the mayor and commission here in Athens-Clarke County because they are right in the middle of preparing the budget. I want us to take a quick look at some of your comments from that commission meeting, and then we'll talk through them together.
All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and start. So I had a presentation, and as I often do, I brought my handy Bible with me, hopes that God would show me down the right path of what exactly I need to say and get across here. Show of hands. I just want to know which of you have been charged with or in a position where you ran security at a courthouse or were charged with operating and running a jail. My hand goes up. Okay. Like we say in the meetings, seeing none, I'll move forward to the next point. So I'll say this. You all absolutely have a right to feel a certain way and always can ask questions. I welcome questions. What you also absolutely should do is actually listen to the one person in any setting who is qualified and experienced to make these decisions, be it courthouse, jail, warrant service, evictions, 2 elections, 2 general elections. Right around 50,000 people had voted and said that I was the person that they want to lead the Clarke County Sheriff's Office. That's not lost on me. I hope it's not lost on any other elected official in this room. We're here because the people decided to put you in this place. As such, I'm disappointed that I feel like when I put forth these efforts to tell you what I need in order to do my job, to keep people safe, to run the day-to-day businesses of the Clarke County Sheriff's Office, I feel like y'all don't even read all the work that I put into it. That's got to stop. So I'm going to tag this little sermon that I'm doing, the past this prologue. So instead of like going by all the numbers and saying, hey, I asked for this, you didn't give me that, I'm going to ask y'all to just go back through history and look at what I have asked you for. And some things we have got. I'm going to thank you for those. But even some of those things we've fallen short of. First of all, highest on my priority. I keep getting questions, and I've gotten some questions from some of you elected officials. And I don't like calling people out by name until I absolutely have to. But when it comes down to it, some of these questions you have the answers to, or you at least have access to. So when it comes to the recent deaths, without being able to speak in specifics about the results of them, because I don't have them, the question was asked me, what are we doing to mitigate the deaths? My answer to that is everything we possibly humanly can. Furthermore, for 4 years, I have come to you budget season after budget season, in session meetings, out of session meetings, and I've told you, we are short-staffed, critically short-staffed is the word I used. I reflected on other jails that had people dying, that had conditions of squalor. And I said, if y'all don't help me, that's the situation we're going to be in. And even today, I'm not saying that any of these 2 deaths were a direct result of our staffing. But what I'm saying is, if you want to know what we're doing everything. And we're asking you to do your part. So when we go down the list, I see all these things. And I've sat back for 4 years. And before that, I was attending and watching commission meetings. But just in my 4 years, I've seen the community come together and fight for the firefighters to be unionized. And they came out and they spoke and y'all voted and we got that going. I've seen the community come together when the librarian said they weren't paid enough. And the community came together and they spoke out and they fought. And guess what? The librarians got a raise. Haven't seen the same thing for the sheriff's office. But time and time again, I've come to you and I said, the reason I can't get my staffing up is because the pay's not what it should be. You all, the pay study set what should be the standard of pay for certified peace officers in Athens-Clarke County. And you all let them decide that my deputies are not the same. And they feel that. So my deputies are short-staffed. And then furthermore, in this game of kick the can down the road that seems to happen a lot, I don't know if y'all read it, if y'all understood, if y'all heard me saying in budgets of past, the courthouse is in disarray. And I let some of that go because I was told, well, we're about to have a new courthouse. But guess what? 4 years in, no new courthouse. We don't even have a spot that we're going to build it on and the money to build what we talked about building. So, pardon my French, I got judges, attorneys, everybody crawling up my ass asking what I'm going to do. And I'm asking y'all, what are y'all going to do?
Well, Sheriff, that Bible does say the truth shall set you free. You did not mince words in this conversation with the Clarke County Commission. So tell us this. Let's start here. How short-staffed are you? You said, quote, critically short-staffed. Help us understand the scope of the problem.
So we're slotted for, and that's excluding myself, 195 slots. So that's both certified and civilian staff. Over this time, today we're 39 short.
Okay.
To put that in perspective, that also includes there's 2 that are about to retire. There's 6 that we have that are in training. So those count as numbers, but those aren't the folks that we can just say, hey, go out and do your job. The jail in particular, I think is what we really, really need to focus on, because at some point, the courthouse, we got doors. We can kind of close. We can say, okay, we just going to shut down this court or whatever, if that came down. But the jail is the one building in this entire county that there are people in 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365. You get the picture. So we have to have that facility running. Ideally, we would need to have about 22 to 24 people per shift. We have 4 shifts at the jail, A, B, C, and D. So there's 12-hour shifts, day, night, day, night. Right now, we have about 10 per shift. So that's half of what we need to efficiently run. So what that means is, instead of having 2 people assigned to each unit, at best we have 1. Now, the numbers get a little bit deceptive because we have this thing called overtime. So we have some people that aren't just working 12-hour shifts. They're working, 16-hour shifts, like 5-6 days a week. They're coming in on their off days. And that's the only way that we've been able to kind of make it work in a kind of a patchwork setting. So furthermore, what we have lost over the time, and yes, it's partly because of the pay. We had people who were veterans who've been in the game, so to speak, for 20 years or more, and they said, well, I can retire. If this is, how they're going to treat me, I'm just going to go ahead and hang it up and walk out the door, and rather than make, 15, 20,000 if they're supervisors, than what their counterparts at the police department, for instance, would be making. And so we've lost a lot of veterans, and then that's experience. But then a lot of the people that we have in those positions now have only been in them a year or 2. So we don't have the experience there. So the middle of them, so what I can say is through 4+ years, and this is both sworn and civilian, we've had more than 70 people who haven't gone anywhere. So some people are just dedicated. They I can't say like the job, but they're comfortable where they're at.
Committed.
They do a good job, and they're definitely dedicated to what it is. But a lot of the people that we lose are the newer folks who come in. It's not what they expected, or
where do you lose them to?
So we've lost a lot. Unfortunately, we've got a lot of people, and they were there. We got them trained. We put them through the academy, and they go to surrounding agencies because, I don't want to continue working in the jail now that I'm certified, and I can go somewhere else and get higher pay, a take-home car. We don't have a lot of cars. So really the only cars we have are for our field deputies.
Sure.
So we do need more of that. But we just want to focus on that piece. to make sure we try to get that. And Cameron, we've had situations, a sheriff can make some decisions, but I refuse to let people stay who aren't right for the job. So some people we've let go because, we had questions.
So you don't just want warm bodies to fill a position. You want the right people.
The right people. And that's why we also push for, the community. We want people from this community to come and work with us. And that's another way you address that concern you brought up earlier. What do you say to loved ones? Well, look, if you got somebody in your family that has a good heart, that has the physical ability, bring them on board, because inherently you can be from anywhere and do a good job policing. But there's something about being from the area and the investment that you have to people that you went to school with, family members. We want to be able to, I guess, kind of hold on to those folks as well. It can't be all locals, but we got to have a few here and there. And even if it's not somebody that was born, but somebody that just lives here and just loves Athens. Clarke County is a great place.
It is.
I came here. I used to joke and say I kind of got stuck, but then, I got engaged, and then I moved my wife here, and her kids are here.
I always say I'll stay as long as y'all will allow me to stay.
That's it.
Well, so tell me this. Are you saying that you believe if pay is increased, that you will have your staffing problem solved?
Well, okay. I won't say solved.
Sure.
It's a big dent in it, but I think as per example, when the police department got their pay bump, and then they got the $10,000
They did see that
bonus,
reduction, didn't they?
Now they're, chief salters. I talk to them all the time. They say we're operating about 98%. And
for clarity for listeners, the police department was short about 58 officers, I believe, at their peak. So that just gives some context.
Yeah. So, with them, and when I worked for the police department for like 12 years, they weren't ever full staffed, but they're pretty much full staff now. So I think that is a fallacy we can go. Are there other factors? Yeah. Morale is always an issue. Anytime you have a new sheriff coming in, you're going to have some turnover. So I'm not saying that that's the only thing, but now that we're in that second term, I think the pay is the biggest factor that we have, and then the work itself. So there is burnout because we got people who are working overtime. We got people, normal folks work a 40-hour week. We got people that might be working 60, 70 hours a week. That's 140 hours, a month.
And you don't want that for them. Right.
I don't want that because, look, I've been there myself, not in this specific situation, but even when I was a dispatcher, when I was an officer, I feel like I sacrificed time with my own children for the safety of other children in the community. And now that my kids are grown, I'm feeling the results of that because it's like, well, Daddy, you weren't here. And it's like, it breaks my heart, but I just have to tell them why I did it. And it's still a fire in me. I believe it. I'm not saying I would have gone back and done differently, but it's important to my people, to me, that my people have that ability to not work as much, to not, try to work overtime and live beyond their means. Those are life skills that we want to give people. So.
Work-life balance, I need to teach myself that sometimes, Sheriff. Let's talk about worst-case scenario. If we watch this vote with the commission in the coming weeks and you see that they do not allocate the funding that you need to address the pay inequities that your office experiences as it relates to both the police department but other agencies as well, what happens? What do you do? How do you make do?
That's a really good question. It's a really tough one.
You could also use this time to talk to the mayor and commission if you need to. I'll give you that space as well.
So I like to try to watch my words because sometimes, people will want to paint you as because I'm a black man. It's not a race card. It's an angry black man. And I try to watch that. But there's things that's in the books. But I tell you this, I just said a little while ago, I love this county. I love Athens. And I don't want to do anything to make Athens look bad. So I could sue. Sheriffs have done that for control of their budget, for all these other things. That's something that other sheriffs have told me I probably already should have done. But I didn't want that black mark on this county. Are we at that point? if it doesn't turn around this time. Could very well be.
And Sheriff, you did say a few years ago, I remember this because I'm a budget fanatic. Mm-hmm. You told that commission that if funding did not come, that deaths would occur. Did you not?
I did say that.
Okay. Yeah. I thought so.
And I'm not a prophet. I'm just, I read, I watch, I just look at what's around me. And when I see this happen in other jails, I don't know if you saw, we just had a situation in New Orleans where they had 11 inmates escape. And the details are still coming out on that. So I don't comment entirely without knowing all the facts. Sure. But there's speculation that, some of the people who worked there might have been involved. And why does that happen? Because you're not getting paid. Because you have this other opportunity. It's easier for some people to cross that line and make a decision of something that horrible. And I don't want our folks to even be tempted by that. So we want to treat them right, but we want to pay them right, and we want to make sure that we take care of the facility itself.
All right. Well, Athens-Clarke County, you're listening, and the sheriff is asking for your help, perhaps, in reaching out to your elected county commissioner and our mayor as they finalize our budget headed toward June. So with that, I wanted to remind you and give a quick shout out to our friends here at Runway Cowork, Dave, Mulkey, Rob, Emily, and the entire team. Whether you're a freelancer, founder, or just tired of working from your couch like I usually am, Runway has the space, community, and the coffee, which I am drinking every time the sheriff talks to support your grind. We're here with your elected sheriff here in Athens-Clarke County, Sheriff John Q. Williams. Sheriff, I know that we've talked about a lot of serious topics. I know we oftentimes in interviews tend to hone in and talk on the bad stuff, what's going wrong. But I also know that there is a lot of good happening out of your office. I see it all the time. And so what community partnerships would you like to speak about that you are seeing improve the lives of people that are housed at the jail and that are leading to them not coming back to see you again?
So we, not to brag, we might need about 2 hours to go through this.
We'll bring you back.
No, so this is it was one of my main focuses during the election, and once I actually got inside to look at that jail environment and to speak with some of the people, some that I had dealt with as an officer, and multiple arrests and just talking to them. So we immediately wanted to do two things when I came in. One, that's create a community outreach unit with the Clarke County Sheriff's Office has never had, but two, create a reentry program. So we created that, and our reentry quality services is what we branded it. And they're focused on just that, trying to reduce recidivism. And how we've done that so far is by creating those community partnerships. Divas Who Win, they come in and teach the ladies some classes. We have, we partnered with Spencer Fry and Habitat for Humanity to create a program called Future Foundations. That's where we're actually teaching, right now it's the ladies in the jail, construction skills. And they actually leave with a certificate that allows them to go into the construction industry to actually get a job when they leave out. Because
that's wonderful.
Clearly, if you don't get some kind of skill, you might go back to where you were before you got into jail. But if you have line up for a job, we do GED services. It's been there, but we've kind of amped it up. We got a tablet program where they can go and take classes, and we got a relationship with Athens-Tech, who comes in and practice the test right on site. We just had our first graduate.
I saw that.
Congratulations
to him. Yes.
So we got a guy, and it's a big deal. And his family is commenting on the post like, "Oh my God, I'm so proud of him. Congratulations." So those are the things that we want to do. Inside Out program with Dr. Shannon from UGA on campus. They actually bring some of her students, and they have weekly meetings right at the jail. So they have the inside people are the people who are jail residents, the outside are the people who are students, and they come in and they work and talk and learn together. They do zines to show that up. Our partnership with Shane Sims and PLR. Oh my God, this is
people living in recovery.
People
correct?
living in recovery. He's come in and done a program called Principles Over Passion, and it teaches right now the males and not just the misdemeanors, but the folks who are in there for felonies, the folks who might be, going to prison for a long time. But what we found is bringing them in that environment, they value that, and they get to learn and they get to talk to each other, and they don't want to, violate the rules because they don't want to be kicked out of the program. And when they graduate, we actually do have a full graduation. We got suits that are done. We're actually doing a suit drive right now in partnership with Ebenezer West Baptist Church. We're trying to get all the suits donated around Father's Day so we can get them in there when they graduate. Some of them, it's the first time they've had a suit.
Listeners, you hear that, but I also want to tell them that you should follow the Clarke County Sheriff's Office on social media, because they're posting about these success stories as they happen, which is great to see too.
Exactly. So you might see one of your loved one who's made a mistake and gone to jail, but now you see them in a suit and a tie that we helped them learn how to tie, how to match these clothes together. Linden House does an art program. And we post all those things online as well. I think we had our first session, and I think next January there's a whole art show that's going to be developed and dedicated to that.
That's great.
Life LaRose with Chestnut Community, he comes in and teaches a class. Partners with Cornerstone Church, and the Number One Dads program is there. It comes in and teach guys the importance of being involved in your child's life. And I think the one thing that comes out of that is they always, by the end of it, every dad that gets through that program, one of the things they always say they remember is, okay, I learned that I shouldn't refer to my child's mom as my baby mama. You have to have a little bit of dignity. I mean, you were with that person, they're a human being, let's go ahead and treat them like such. And you might not have the best relationship, but there's a certain level of respect that you have to have in order for your child. And then at the last but not least, Project Safe. They come in, they teach classes. So I think all those things.
It's a lot going on.
Yeah, it's a whole lot going on. But we're really proud of some of the other programs. Our fall festival, thousands of people come
Haunted
out.
House
right
included.
Haunted House included. And it's fun. I love dressing up.
You do a costume every year,
every year.
We'll have to throw that up on screen right now for people to see last year's, but
So those are the things that we're most proud of. But even just getting out of the jail environment, providing a safe space, because I like my deputies. I think nobody's going to commit a crime right in front of them. So if we got a lot of deputies and we're behind the jail, or we at a function and we got all those people, that's why I do it, because sometimes you don't know. You see all the time. We just had one in Atlanta last night. Some folks got to shooting at a McDonald's. You want to have some safe spaces where people can just kind of let go and just be themselves.
Yeah, well, I know that's all good work. It's important work, and it sounds like the goal ultimately in all of that being you don't want to see them again with you.
Exactly.
Which
Come
is
back
good.
and visit.
Sure.
Show me
volunteer, maybe.
Volunteer.
Second chance employment allowed there, or
so unfortunately,
I'm curious about that.
We can't.
Sure.
Because we do have to have strict background checks.
Yep.
And unfortunately, even if we took a chance, if we get it wrong, that's a big no-no.
Then, as you said, that might be your ass that will be grass. Then, like you told the commission, right?
Exactly.
So, all right, got it. Well, I want to end by doing a little game of this or that. I think it's always a good way to let people get to know you a little bit better. Sometimes we start some controversy when we start asking about people's favorite things. So no pressure. But would you rather cheer on the Dogs on a game day Saturday, or go to Aikensford Arena and cheer on the new Rock Lobsters hockey team?
So it's got to be the Dogs for me. Nothing against the Rock Lobsters, but I'm not a hockey guy. I grew up. We didn't even have hockey. I didn't, close to Chicago, there was the Blackhawks, but we didn't have that. There was no high school. We didn't have an arena, so I never even got familiar with hockey. Except Blazer Steel. Now, NES game, I would play Blazer Steel, but that was about all I know about hockey.
All right. Well, I'm a claws up guy, but I also say go dogs too. So I'll go with both. Sports is something that is not necessarily my passion project, but coffee is. And so I have to know, would you rather get a cup from Starbucks or from Jittery Joe's?
Okay, so here's the controversy. I don't drink coffee at all.
Oh, wow.
So I would have to pick Jittery Joe's because I know they have a good hot chocolate and they have some good tea options.
They do have good tea, and you chose the local option there.
Exactly.
So good
See
choice,
there?
Sheriff.
All around.
Now, I am going to pit one local place against another here. Barbecue, my favorite thing to eat. Doggone good barbecue or fresh air? Tough choice, I know.
We got to pick between. So if I'm being entirely honest, I'm going to have to go with Sauce House, though. It's not one of the lists.
A pivot. I like it.
Sauce House, I had a birthday party at Sauce House. They usually do me right.
All right. Well, I appreciate the third option there, and I like all three, so that's good. Athfest in the hot summer or Twilight in, I believe, April. Which do you prefer?
So I like cooler weather, but I'm going to have to go with Athfest because of everything else that comes with it.
Mm-hmm.
Because unfortunately with Twilight, I used to be, an avid bike rider. I used to ride my bike back and forth to work.
Mm-hmm.
You can tell the shape I'm in. I don't do that anymore. But I think probably the most exciting part of Twilight is, I walked out really my first year in office, and they go right around there behind the courthouse. And when I walked out to get in my car, I just hear, and one guy hit the dirt, and then the next one. So it was like a 6-bike pileup. I was like, oh my God,
it's scary.
It's rough. It's rough.
All right. Well, what about this late night concert at the Georgia Theater or an early evening set at Hendershots?
I had to go with Hendershots. I like the quaint environment, and I'm a little bit. Kind of seems odd for a sheriff, but I'm a little bit of an introvert with extrovert tendencies. But every time I get in those big settings, I got to go and unwind and recharge.
I'm right there with you.
My introvert battery. So I'm gonna go with Hendershot.
I like that, and they have good coffee there too.
Yes.
So that which you don't drink, but I'll share. I'll have the coffee for us both.
Everybody else in my family drinks. So my mom, my wife, everybody else does, but I'm the oddball.
I got it. Well, I always like to ask this question of everyone because I'm always fascinated by people's local music connections. Is it going to be REM, the B-52s, or that thing they call widespread panic?
So this is an easy one for me because I relate it to food and I love to eat.
Mm-hmm.
I got to go automatic for the people.
Automatic for the people. I like it. And by the way, that sounds good right about now. Weaver
Yeah, it does.
Yes. A walk on the Firefly Trail or a visit to Bear Hollow Zoo?
Bear Hollow Zoo. Oh, I love the zoo.
It's great. It's great. Similar, I know, but viewing art at Linden House, which you have a partnership with, or at the Georgia Museum of Art.
So I got to go with Linden House.
Yeah.
It's local and not anti-campus.
Sure.
But it's a little bit more quaint.
Yeah. Georgia Museum's great, too. We encourage people to visit both. Now, let's do a few related to your job. Would you rather do paperwork in the office or be out in the community?
Out in the community all day.
And you are often out there. What about breaking up a bar fight? Which is easier? Let me rephrase this. Breaking up a bar fight or de-escalating an Athens-Clarke County Commission meeting?
That's the controversy you spoke of, right?
And no comment is acceptable as well.
I'm not going to do that because this ain't one of the shots, so I don't have to drink a shot. But I will tell you this. I think the bar fight would be easy.
Yep, especially on a Friday night. Yep. Well, last but certainly not least, Sheriff, I know that you were just reelected. I know you're not even probably thinking about this, but in 3 years, are you going to look to run again or retire?
Had this discussion with my wife. She doesn't believe me that I'm not in this for like ages and ages. She doesn't embrace the politics side, but she's been really good and supportive. This is my answer. Right now, I'm sheriff. I'm kind of focused on what I got to do right now. Unless something changes, I would like that to continue because I don't feel I've accomplished everything that I set out to. But if it goes beyond that, say another term, it's going to kind of hinge around what the community. If it's, oh man, we love Sheriff Q, we want him back, and if I don't have to keep fighting to get things that I feel is right, then I could see myself staying. Now, I guess the average in Clarke County has been about 20 years. I'm going to tell you right now, it would have to be absolute perfection for me to consider like 20 years.
Sure.
Because I do want, time with my family and potentially grandkids. I got grandkids from my wife's part of the blended family, but my two boys don't have it yet. So I definitely want to be able to be a part of that when it does start to happen. So, long answer, most likely.
Most likely. All right. Well, we like to be first on knowing these things here on the podcast, so we appreciate that.
You're absolutely the first that's asked that. So,
It's a little early, but we'll be watching, Sheriff.
All right.
All right. Well, Sheriff John Q. Williams, thank you so much for joining us here on the podcast. And to all of you listening, thank you so much for being here. Remember to like, share, and leave a comment letting us know what you thought about the sheriff's positions here today. And remember to follow them on Facebook at Clarke County Sheriff's Office. And again, thank you always for joining us to do all the good we can, and we always do it together. I'm Cameron J. Take care, everybody. We'll see you again right here very soon.